don't ban books. My name is Ben, and I live in a small school district here in Texas, and been watching a trend that's happened here. Been watching it on social media, the interwebs, and movements within the conservative circles for a while. But it's finally hit home. There's discussion among conservatives, particularly the evangelical Christian sect, to ban books in public schools. And this is a horrible idea. And the driving force behind it is people are going out and finding inappropriate, generally sexually explicit material in books, even to the extreme of just straight up porn mags in schools. And I'll start by saying, like, that's stupid. It's horrible. Yes, it is dangerous to individual kids. All of these things we know. But there's a bigger battle that's going on at play that we, as Americans, as society, as humans, lose if we start banning books. And I believe that generally. But there's a segment of the population that's in private school, that's in private libraries, and if that's what you're doing, if you're in private enterprise, even charitable private enterprise, you have an absolute right to limit whatever you put on your shelves or have in that area, and you have a different ethic to that because that ethic is whatever you are serving. So if you're a religious school, if you're a Jewish school or a Catholic school, or a Muslim school, then what goes into your library goes into your shelves should serve that end, and the people, the decision makers for that entity, should be able to make that decision. But whether it should be or shouldn't be, our public schools are our government, and so to some extent they operate under the First Amendment, freedom of speech, which is incredibly important. And the way that plays out to books, books are ideas. That's where the whole potential of what can be expanded comes out of books. That's what moves things along. That's what encourages freedom. If you don't have the freedom that's found in books, you don't have freedom. So, the problem comes in when you have a public school that has to make a determination about what's going to be on the shelves in the library. Or taught in class is a different deal. Maybe there'll be another video on that. But just what's on the shelf in the libraries. And so the push is that we should not have books. We should pass rules, pass laws against having books that are inappropriate by whatever standard. Pick any standard that are inappropriate in the library accessible to kids. And obviously that's true. Obviously there are things that should or shouldn't be accessible to kids. And obviously there's a propriety issue of what's appropriate to make available to kids and at what age. And I'm not denying that argument. What I'm saying is that there's a bigger game that's at work. And here's the problem. As soon as you agree that we can ban books, that there are books that will not be allowed on the shelf, then you've already lost the battle. Because what that means is that you have accepted the fact that somebody higher up with more power can make decision about what ideas are allowed in that presence. That's something the government doesn't have a right to do against the Constitution, shouldn't have a right to do against the Constitution, unless we give it to them. And so it all works out when you're the one that's in control, when you're the one that gets to establish what is appropriate. And you set a standard, and it's probably a good standard, and that's where this gets so dangerous, is because a lot of people will agree, no, that's a good standard, kids shouldn't have access to violent pornography in the schools. Absolutely agree, they shouldn't. But as soon as you say, we're going to make that a rule and stamp it, what you have done is said that ideas can be controlled. And sure enough, things will turn around, and who is in power now will not be in power later. And then you have already acquiesced to the fact that that position, whoever is in it, gets to decide what to ban or what not to ban. So just talk about like graphic violent material. Perhaps you say that's inappropriate. Or graphic sexual material. All of that's found in the Bible. So as soon as you start setting a standard, then the Bible is the first book that has to be banned. And what's worse than that, the Bible inherently is a motivating book. And so a lot of wars were fought over a misinterpretation of the Bible. And so obviously I'm not anti-Bible, but what I'm saying is you're going to say, look, books with this kind of content aren't allowed. You've established a rule now that whoever's in charge, whoever has the power, can control the ideas that are presented. And as soon as that turns over, that idea is going to be used against you because now we're arguing about the standard. And they can change the standard, and you may or may not win that. And then it perpetually gets bigger and bigger and bigger and worse and worse and worse. And the overarching problem is you have eliminated freedom for a good purpose. And perhaps in some areas that's right. So you can, we all limit our freedoms to the extent of society. And school's a good reason for that because there's a purpose for being in school. There's a purpose, and in order to achieve that purpose, children have to give up certain rights. But books are too important to subject to that. Now, I'm not saying it should be free reign. There can be a lot of other opportunities, a lot of other solutions to that. Maybe you have an area of the library that parents have to sign a permission slip for. Maybe, with all the technology we have, there's a perfectly simple explanation would be every time that kid's ID checks out a book or has access to a book and is looking at books, then an alert goes to the parents. I get alerts from my kids' schools for all kinds of ridiculous things all the time. No library alerts, except for past due fines. There's many, many ways. We're not going to get there if the easy answer is ban the books, control it, control the ideas, control the thoughts. You're not going to work through those things. So what has to happen is we have to say, we don't ban books. And that said, we can get creative how to address all of these other issues. The big fear is the individual kids that are going to get into things that are inappropriate for them. And I absolutely agree that there are some librarians, some educators that are pure evil masquerading in free idea and compassion. And without a doubt, those people are evil. They shouldn't be in schools. Ban those people from schools. I'm fine with that. But the freedom of ideas is too important to cede the fact that who's in control gets to determine what ideas are available. We, all of us, across the board, have to say, we don't ban books. Period. And from there, then go in and figure out creative solutions to the problems that present themselves.